Churchill once said, "The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter." This was meant as a joke, but there is some truth there. If the majority of a nation believe in some crazy idea, it may only take one election for them to ruin their society. It would have to be a pretty big idea, but that's always possible. And although other systems are less desirable, it's important to be aware of democracy's dark side. The single biggest danger of democracy is tyranny of the majority. If the majority of voting citizens are anti-Semitic, the introduction of anti-Semitic laws won't be a surprise, and it's the same for any minority group of any kind. Most political systems include basic human rights to protect against this, but a big enough majority can often alter human rights. If a charismatic leader is able to successfully scapegoat a minority group in a time of crisis, the majority may adopt their views. We've seen it many times before. Medieval witch trials weren't much more than tyranny of majority on a very small scale. If you think we can't experience tyranny of the majority in the modern world, you best not visit the Congo, where it's common to discriminate against pygmies. In South Africa, there is a growing sense that land owned by white people should be confiscated and given to non-whites. With just 9% of the South African population being white, we may soon see majority tyranny. Majority tyranny relies on mass delusion. You need to delude people into being tyrannical. People can be deluded into believing almost anything. Until recently, most people believed saturated fat is actually bad for you. We now know that's not true. Millions of people still believe that cannabis causes mental illness, and that just shows that given enough time and propaganda, mass delusion can be created. This has massive implications for the way people vote in elections. We know from evolutionary psychology that most people are willing to adapt to crowd mentalities. As propaganda-induced ideas spread, more people become more likely to give in to them. This means the masses can be manipulated into voting against their own interests. And that means a small group of elites could theoretically control election outcomes. I'm not saying that does happen, but if it's even possible, that's a big flaw. There are some democracies which were arguably better while being a dictatorship. Before becoming a democracy, the leader of Iran was westernizing his country. He was introducing new policies of gender equality. He was modernizing with the goal of making Iran into a world power. But the Iranian people weren't ready for that. He was overthrown and replaced by religious fundamentalists. Their new leaders had popular support, but as far as equality and economic prosperity is concerned, their time in power has been a disaster. As propaganda-induced ideas spread, more people become more likely to give in to them. Some dictatorships are just superior to some democracies. Democracies tend to have problems with corruption. The more corruption you have, the less economic growth you have. As a result of this, some democracies must be worse than some dictatorships. This might be why the Chinese economy is so much bigger than India's. But if we ignore cases like India, even the less corrupt countries have a lot of corruption. Gerrymandering is the act of reorganizing constituency boundaries to favor one political party. The goal is to increase your own party's chances of electoral success while decreasing those of other parties. It's named after Elbridge Gerry, who started the whole thing off. He was the governor of Massachusetts in the early 19th century. Wanting to maintain power, he had district boundaries redrawn to help his own party. And ever since he did, American politicians have been taking every opportunity to gerrymander. This of course defeats the purpose of democracy, and gerrymandering has become a dirty word, especially in China. Chinese state media often point to things like this as arguments against democracy. And believe me, the Chinese media spend a lot of time criticizing democracy. One problem the Chinese don't have is tribal voting. Tribal voting is a big problem. A lot of people inherit their parents' political views. So with this constant support, politicians don't feel the need to act in their supporters' interests, because their voters are never going to support an opposing party. Tribal mentality won't allow that. In this country, we have a situation where no major party actually stand for anything. They have no ideology and they really never do anything. Yet we still vote them into office, and so they act in their own interest without consequence. Both parties are bankrolled by hedge fund executives. Modern politicians are basically prostitutes. They exist only to earn money, so they constantly try to repeal their opponents' policies, even if such policies seem to make sense. And this means that as a nation, we start moving in a new direction after every election. In dictatorships, they have 20-year plans, but in democracies, we have 5-year plans. And when you think about it, 5 years isn't long enough to do much.